Hey everyone and welcome. Today we're going to be diving deep into accent reduction. But before we even get started, I want to assure you we are not here to erase your accent.
Right.
We're all about individuality and celebrating what makes your voice unique.
Exactly.
We're using this deep dive to learn some techniques that can boost your confidence and help you communicate more clearly.
Absolutely.
And to help guide us on this journey, we'll be taking insights from a podcast episode.
Okay.
It's called Accent Reduction, Speak Clearly and Confidently. It's from the English Speaking Studio podcast, hosted by a coach named Catherine.
Interesting.
So let's jump right in. What really struck me is how Catherine debunks this myth of a single, perfect English accent.
Yeah, she makes a great point there. I mean, think about a Texan and someone from Scotland. They sound totally different,
Right.
but they're both speaking English.
So true. I never thought about it like that.
So it's really not about trying to sound like everyone else.
So if it's not about mimicking some sort of standard accent, then what's the real goal here?
Well, she really emphasizes clarity. Clarity?
Yeah, she gives this example. Imagine someone with a really thick accent who mumbles and talks super fast.
Oh, yeah.
Now imagine someone else who maybe has just a slight accent, but speaks slowly and enunciates each word clearly.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
Who do you think you'd understand better?
Definitely the second person. It's like listening to music that's playing way too fast. It just becomes noise. But if you slow it down, you can actually appreciate the melody.
Exactly. And actually, Catherine outlines something she calls the clarity triangle.
Oh, interesting. The clarity triangle.
Yes. And guess what the first point of this triangle is?
Let me guess pace.
You got it.
Ah.
Pace is like the foundation. It sets the stage for everything else.
Okay, so just taking it slow can make a big difference.
It's more than just speaking slowly. It's also about using pauses.
Pauses.
Pauses for emphasis, you know? Like imagine saying, I'm learning English with a little pause after each word. It gives your listener time to really process what you're saying. I like that.
Yeah.
That's a good tip.
Huh.
I have to admit, I tend to speed up when I get excited.
We all do it.
So taking a breath, remembering those pauses, that's definitely going on my practice list.
It's a good one to practice.
But what about the other two sides of the clarity triangle? What else is there?
The second point is pronunciation.
Pronunciation. That makes sense.
And you know, English has some tricky sounds.
Yeah, for sure.
Like the TH and R sounds, those can be tough for non-native speakers.
I can imagine.
But she has some fun exercises for those.
Like what?
One is to put a pencil between your teeth.
A pencil.
Interesting.
And try to say, 3 thirsty tigers took 30 trains to Thailand.
Okay, that sounds like a mouthful and a half.
It is. It feels a bit silly, but by overemphasizing the sounds like that, you actually train your mouth to make them correctly.
Wow, I'm definitely trying that later. It's like doing vocal warm-ups for your accent.
Right. Okay, so we've got pace pronunciation. What do you think the final piece of the clarity triangle is?
It's got to be the way you say it, like the tone. You're on fire. It's intonation.
Intonation. Got it.
Exactly. Think about someone saying, I am happy, in a totally flat monotone.
Like a robot talking.
Right. It doesn't really convey the feeling of happiness.
Not at all.
English uses a lot of vocal variety, like those ups and downs of a roller coaster.
So instead of that flat, I am happy, you want to really emphasize the happy part.
You got it. And you can practice with phrases like, are you serious? You know, using a rising tone to show curiosity.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. So intonation really adds meaning and emotion to what you're saying.
It totally does. It's like learning to play an instrument. It's not just about hitting the right notes.
Right, you've got to put feeling into it.
Exactly. You have to put expression into it.
These technical tips are great, but it feels like there's something even bigger at play here, you know?
Oh, I know exactly what you mean.
Catherine also talks about the confidence formula, and it seems to be all about owning your voice.
You're right on the money. We can't ignore that psychological aspect.
Right. It's not just the mechanics of speech.
Exactly. Even if you have perfect pronunciation, if you don't sound confident, it won't have the same impact.
Makes sense.
Catherine uses a great analogy. Think of your voice like a microphone.
Okay, a microphone.
If you whisper, no one will hear you. But if you project your voice with confidence, people will listen.
I love that analogy.
She even suggests a little morning ritual. Look in the mirror and say, I am an English speaker and I speak with confidence.
Confession time. I've totally done that before, and it does feel a bit silly at first.
I know it does.
But saying those words out loud, I don't know, there's something about it that gives you a little boost.
Like a little pep talk for your voice.
Exactly. Like you're psyching yourself up for the day.
It might sound strange, but there's actually science behind it. Positive affirmations can really work.
No way, I didn't know that.
By repeating those phrases, you're kind of rewiring your brain to believe in your ability to communicate effectively.
So it's more than just the technical aspects of pronunciation.
Yeah, it's like a mental shift. You embrace your voice
Hmm.
and you're not afraid to use it.
I love that. And speaking of using our voices, Catherine also has some suggestions for how to practice every day.
Oh, yeah, she calls them fun exercises to train your accent and clarity.
Fun exercises. I like the sound of that.
They don't sound like work at all.
Okay, tell me more about these fun exercises. What are some of them?
One of the most interesting ones is called the shadowing game. And basically, you listen to native speakers and try to copy their pace and tone.
You mean like when I try to imitate my favorite podcast host?
That's exactly it.
I thought I was just being silly.
You're actually practicing. You're absorbing pronunciation rhythm, even cultural nuances without even realizing it.
No way. So all this time I've actually been learning.
You've been learning. It's like learning a dance by watching and copying the steps. And
Yeah.
you can shadow anything with clear, well-spoken English. News broadcasts, audiobooks, movies.
Okay, so I can finally justify my movie marathon.
Exactly. Another exercise she recommends is recording yourself reading aloud and then comparing it to a native speaker's recording.
You know, that's a good idea, but I always cringe a little when I hear my own voice played back.
I know what you mean. It can be a bit jarring.
But I guess it could be helpful.
It's super valuable. Think of it like getting feedback from your own personal speech coach.
Okay, I'm starting to see the value in that. What was that last tip she mentioned? The one about talking to yourself?
It might sound a bit odd, but it's actually a fantastic way to build fluency and confidence.
Really? Talking to myself.
The great thing about talking to yourself is that there's no pressure. You can experiment with different sounds, try out new vocabulary, and just get comfortable with the flow of English without worrying about making mistakes.
Wait, seriously, so like narrating my morning routine while I'm making coffee.
Exactly. Describe what you're doing, what you see, what you're thinking. You can even have imaginary conversations or give yourself pep talks in the mirror.
This is blowing my mind.
The more you practice, the more natural and comfortable you'll feel expressing yourself in English.
So it's all about turning those everyday moments into chances to practice and play with the language.
That's what it's all about. The key is to make it fun and to make it a part of your daily life so it doesn't feel like a chore.
So to sum up what we've learned from Catherine so far, forget about erasing your accent.
Right.
Celebrate it.
Yeah.
Focus on clarity.
Yes.
Slow down, pronounce fully, and project that confidence.
You got it.
And most importantly, make practice a regular part of your routine.
Even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
This has been so eye-opening already.
Me too.
It's amazing how much goes into communicating effectively.
Absolutely. And we've only scratched the surface.
There's so much more to explore, and I can't wait to continue this conversation.
I'm excited too.
This whole conversation is making me rethink how I see accent reduction.
Yeah.
You know, it's not about trying to sound like someone else, but more about becoming the best communicator you can be, right?
Exactly. It's like we're investing in our own unique voice instead of trying to fit some kind of mold.
Yeah, and wouldn't that help build confidence too?
Absolutely. And that confidence can have a ripple effect in other parts of your life, you know?
Like how so?
Well, like in your career, your relationships. When you feel good about how you communicate, you're more likely to take risks, share your ideas, connect with people.
I can see that. It's like you're not just speaking English anymore, you're owning it.
Exactly.
That can be so powerful in so many situations like job interviews, social gatherings, just feeling comfortable expressing yourself.
Right.
But are there ever times when maybe you might need to adapt your speech a little bit? Like if you're traveling to a place with a really strong dialect or something?
That's a great question. Yeah, there are definitely times when being aware of regional differences can be helpful.
Like how?
It's not about completely changing your accent, though.
Right.
It's more about understanding those little nuances and maybe adjusting a little bit to be more easily understood.
So like if I were to visit, say, Scotland,
Okay.
it might be good to familiarize myself with some common Scottish pronunciations,
Yeah.
but not necessarily try to sound exactly like them.
Exactly. Just like you might learn a few basic phrases in another language when you travel.
Right.
Being aware of those regional variations in English can just enhance your communication and show respect for the local culture.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
It's all about finding that balance, right?
Yes.
Between embracing your own accent, but also being sensitive to the linguistic landscape around you.
And that balance comes from exposure.
Exposure.
Yeah. The more you listen to different accents interact with people from different backgrounds, the more comfortable you'll be navigating those variations.
Oh, that makes sense.
Hmm.
I'm feeling much more inspired to embrace my own accent while also, continuing to learn and grow as a communicator.
That's great to hear.
All this talk about practice makes me want to revisit those fun exercises Catherine talked
Oh,
about,
yeah. Those are great.
especially the shadowing game. It's like having a personal pronunciation coach right in your headphones.
I know, right? It's so effective.
Tell me more about how that works.
Basically, you listen to native speakers and you repeat what they say right after them,
Uh-huh.
trying to copy their tone, even those subtle inflections.
So like when I'm trying to imitate my favorite podcast host, I do that all the time.
You're already doing it.
I thought it was just a silly habit.
Nope. It's a legitimate learning technique.
No way.
By shadowing native speakers, you're training your mouth to form those sounds correctly and picking up on the rhythm and intonation of natural speech.
So I've been learning without even realizing it.
Exactly. It's like learning a dance by watching and imitating the steps. And it doesn't have to be just podcasts.
Oh, really? What else can you shadow?
You can shadow news broadcasts, audiobooks, movies, anything with clear, well-spoken English.
So many possibilities.
I know, right?
Now, what about recording yourself? I have to admit, I get a little nervous about that one. Feels a bit like being on stage.
I get it. It can be a bit intimidating,
Yeah.
but it's incredibly valuable. Think of it like this. It's like watching a game film of yourself.
Okay, a game film.
You can identify areas you want to work on.
So I could record myself reading like a passage from a book or something.
Yeah. Or even just having a conversation with a friend. And then listen back and pay attention to your pronunciation, your intonation, your pacing.
It's like getting instant feedback to help fine-tune my speech.
Exactly.
What were some of the other fun ways to practice?
She also suggested talking to yourself.
Wait, hold on. Is that really as effective as she claims?
It sounds strange, I know.
Yeah, won't people think I'm crazy if I'm just talking to myself all the time?
Well, think about it this way. When you talk to yourself, there's no pressure to be perfect.
Okay, true.
You can relax, try out different sounds, new vocabulary, get comfortable with the flow of speaking without worrying about making mistakes.
So it's like having a safe space to practice.
Exactly.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal.
Yeah.
But what am I supposed to talk about when I'm talking to myself?
Anything you want. You can narrate your daily activities, have imaginary conversations, practice giving presentations, even just think out loud in English.
So basically turn my inner monologue into an English practice session.
That's the idea. The more you do it, the more fluent and confident you'll become.
And no one has to know.
Exactly. You can do it in the privacy of your own home, in the shower, while you're driving, wherever you feel comfortable.
I love that. It's like turning everyday life into a language learning opportunity.
That's what it's all about. So whether you're shadowing those podcast hosts, recording yourself giving speeches, or chatting with yourself while doing the dishes, the key is to make practice a regular part of your routine.
And to have fun while you're doing it right.
Absolutely. Consistency is key. Even a few minutes of practice each day can make a big difference.
It's all about building those good habits and enjoying the process.
Exactly.
You know, I keep thinking back to what you said about how our voice is an extension of ourselves, like a reflection of our thoughts and feelings and experiences. It makes me realize that accent reduction is about so much more than just sounding correct.
Absolutely. It's about recognizing that our voice is this powerful tool for connecting with others, for sharing our unique perspective with the world.
Yeah, it's like we're reclaiming our voices, giving ourselves permission to be heard and understood. And that can have a huge impact on our confidence.
Exactly. When we feel good about how we communicate, it really empowers us to show up differently in all areas of our lives.
It's like we're shedding those insecurities and becoming a more authentic version of ourselves. But I can see how some people might feel overwhelmed with all this information. Like, where do you even begin?
I think the key is to start small. You don't have to change everything overnight.
Right.
Think of it like training for a marathon.
Nope.
You wouldn't try to run 26 miles on your first day, right?
Probably not.
You'd start with shorter distances and gradually build up your stamina over time.
So it's about setting realistic goals and focusing on one step at a time.
Exactly. Maybe you want to slow down your pace or work on a specific sound. Just pick one thing and practice consistently.
And celebrate those small wins along the way.
Absolutely. And remember, progress isn't always a straight line. There will be days when you feel like you're making great progress and other days when you feel stuck.
It's like any other journey, right? There are ups and downs. It's important to be patient with ourselves.
Exactly. And remember, perfection is not the goal.
So true.
It's about progress, becoming more aware of our habits and making those conscious choices about how we communicate.
This whole conversation has really changed how I think about accent reduction. I used to see it as something kind of superficial, but now I see it as a way of honoring ourselves.
That's a beautiful way to put it. It's about investing in our ability to connect with others, to share our ideas with clarity and confidence.
It's about recognizing that our voices matter and that what we have to say is worth being heard.
And remember, the journey of learning and self-discovery never really ends. There's always something new to learn, something new to practice, and something new to celebrate.
This deep dive has been so insightful and inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise.
It's been a pleasure.
To all our listeners out there, keep exploring, keep practicing, and keep sharing your unique voice with the world.
And as you continue on this journey, ask yourself, what story do you want your voice to tell? Because the power to shape that story lies